that. And get everybody, all 3 people who want to watch us tonight. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, cool. This is the 6 o'clock meeting of the Planning Board, room 103, November 4th, 2021. We have a packed agenda, packed with juicy stuff tonight. Oh, must-see TV. I guess before we get started, I just want to take this time to publicly thank Maren for her hard work and what she did for the town meeting, getting both our articles together, ready, the slides, her presentation. I know you were a little nervous about it. Next, rule number 1, make sure you have water. Hydrate. Yep. But you did a great job. I think we all should be thankful the hard work that you put in, and that we hit the trifecta. We got all 3 of the articles through. Went well at town meeting, and I just want to publicly thank you for the hard work that you did doing it.
Yeah,
Great.
I want to thank you, Mark, for your efforts on the floor also.
Thank you. I cleaned up.
You were called upon quite often, and I think you were able to answer everyone's questions.
I cleaned up the loose edges, I guess.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Board business, board member updates. Anybody got anything? You? Nothing?
Nope, nothing.
Anybody? Anna, do you have anything?
No, thank
No?
you.
Violet? No? Jeff?
Oh,
What?
I do have one thing. For MPIC, we have had 2 openings. We have 3 applicants. So one person has already been before the select board and is going to be joining us. And then we're going to be talking to 2 other gentlemen, so,
Nice.
yes, that's very exciting.
Anything else? Nothing?
No,
Do you
that
have,
was
do you
it.
have anything, Maren?
So I heard the question, what's MPIC, Master Plan Implementation Committee?
Yes, sorry about that.
Yep.
You guys have a whole room. You don't have to sit next to me. You can. I mean, I don't know. You know, my focus could go all over the room. So, anyway, thank you. Anything else? Are you good? Nothing? Public input? You guys got anything?
Live here, and you've seen my email, I think, and we'll wait for that.
Okay, we'll wait for that. Yeah, we got to talk about something at 7:25. Minutes? Anybody look at the minutes? Anybody have any questions about the
How about we
minutes?
read them right now? We've read them, otherwise we can't approve them.
You want to take a minute and read the minutes? Harold, are you all right over there?
Yeah, I'm just turning my phone off.
Is your pizza ready? Is that what this is about? Oh, it's your phone?
It was binging.
Was it telling you to be on time? Is that what it was? No, wasn't there? No. I guess I'm on a roll, right? It's Thursday
Oh,
night.
boy, oh, boy.
Thursday night. So, 6:45, just, you might as well catch up on everything. 6:45 has sent us an actual letter to continue, so
No, to requesting to withdraw without.
withdraw without prejudice completely and start fresh. Okay.
So when it gets to 6:45, you will actually have to take a vote on
All
that.
right, but I mean, I just want to make sure from a housekeeping standpoint. Did they ever give us any money?
With the application, yes.
All right, so we're gonna have to agree to put it towards the next one.
Roll that over.
Okay. And how are the minutes? Are you close?
Yeah, I have 2 sort of typo. On page 3 at the top, the vote being proposed at this public hearing is only for the rezoning from industrial A to industrial B. I think it should be industrial A and industrial B to the mixed use. And, I mean, these are really pitiful small. On the next page, second paragraph, I think it should be agreed with Mr. Sanders' comments. not my Sanders.
Thank you.
Just want to show that I read them.
Better person than me. I just take Myron at her word. 30 years, she hasn't let me down yet.
There's still time, Mark. Don't
Uh,
worry.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So the select board's meeting just on Tuesday for this week,
Correct.
if anyone wants to go.
Correct.
Um,
So, at the select board meeting Tuesday night, there'll be a presentation on the reorganization. And they're hoping that at least 2 members from the planning board can be there. And if there's gonna be more members, then let me know and I can post that as a meeting, but.
I will go. I said I would go. Anyone else want to go to that? Or?
This is for the budget?
Well, it ties into the budget process, but it's the reorganization that was approved at town meeting last June for a land use and buildings department. And so the budget requests will include additional staffing, including assistant town planner. So it's not really a budget discussion, but it's just an overview of where we are on the reorganization.
I'll tentatively commit. I have to look at the agenda to see when it's gonna come up and see if I can make it.
Do you even
I
know?
can, actually, I should be able to check that now. I had heard 7:30, but I haven't double checked that.
Does anyone else want to go to this? Not getting any bites here.
Well, let's see if Jeff can make it.
Yeah, I think it's important to have the assistant town planner brought on.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I mean, if you want to go, we can schedule it. We can post it.
Well,
We don't have to, but,
I think two folks is
okay.
good,
All right,
yeah.
that's fine.
Thank you. Just let me know, Jeff, if you can.
Okay, sure.
Or it looked like you were gonna say something.
Well, if we don't deliberate, it doesn't have to be a meeting, I think, but.
Yeah, that's correct. It wouldn't have to post it, it just doesn't. If I know that there are gonna be at least 3 of you there, then it's probably a
It's a
good
little
idea
easier.
to post it.
Did you find the time?
No, it's
Okay.
not. I don't
Well,
see
as
it.
long as it's not 6 o'clock, I can probably do okay.
But he'll be late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't
I
matter.
was 2 minutes late tonight, and I had explained to you all how difficult it is.
It doesn't matter what time it is. You're just going to be late anyway.
Maybe, that's true, that's fair.
So why don't we just do like we, in the old days? We'll tell them what time it is, but we'll
Yeah,
add time to it because we know
Yeah.
it's going to be late.
Yeah.
somehow
exactly,
we're
so
meeting at
5:45, yeah.
5:55 or
Jeff Fudge
something.
back there. He'll still be late for that. Okay, still no idea of the time?
It's not posted to the website yet.
Okay, so you'll just let us know.
Yes.
It's next Tuesday.
Yep.
Okay, what else? What other pressing business that you forced us out of our warm houses?
Yep, so I put town meeting results and follow-up. Let's see, several steps that have to happen for zoning bylaws. My office put together Form 7 for the Attorney General's office, and that goes to town clerk, and she makes a bigger package of information that goes to the AG's office for their review. So that, at least the first step of that's underway. Diane's going to be working on getting the rest of the forms together to the AG's office. Along the same lines, we did get the report back from the, approval back from the AG on all the bylaws that passed at, all the zoning bylaws that passed at the June town meeting, and everything was approved. And to follow up on that, I have reached out to UTIL to put together a application, update the application form and put together a detailed checklist for form-based code and for the King Street Common districts. That will help the town implement form-based code and King Street Common. For estimate just came in a few minutes ago. Estimate is for 4,800. I'll want to take time to review that and check the hours and everything. But I would, my recommendation is to get UTIL back on board to help us through this next step of getting the of implementing.
Can this be considered in the realm of peer review?
I would imagine that the board will want the peer review for any new application to include information on form-based code or King Street Common site. But-
Well, I'm just, in terms of the 4,800, I'm just wondering about,
Okay, I would propose to use a prior appropriation, prior town meeting
but
appropriation,
why can't we get that from the applicant?
because we're trying to put together application forms.
So two different things
Yeah.
I'm hearing. I'm hearing application forms process, and I hear you saying peer review once the applications come in. Is that right?
Well,
But he wants to
okay,
get this paid through.
so this is just creating a series of, like, creating applications. So that's what this charge is for. It's not specifically for any particular project.
Correct.
And okay, so that's good, I didn't realize that. So then the next thing is, especially with something like King Street Common, and since we have, and I wouldn't know, since we have this relationship with this company who did a really great job on the form-based code and is almost a stakeholder with us in having this process be successful, I mean, can we consider them as a peer review consultant at some point during the application process and thereby charging it to the applicant?
Yep, I appreciate that question. When we had our first couple of applications under the senior residential development bylaw, at that point, we brought a senior residential consultant into the process as well. So we had both Judy Barrett and Green International doing their usual, well, Judy reviewed it for compliance with the local bylaw and standards for senior housing, and Green International reviewed the applications for compliance with stormwater and engineering and those details.
But
So
didn't we-
yes, it was at that. It does make sense to bring in a consultant who's worked with us through the process.
But didn't we steal the money? Well, steal, didn't we have money left over in the budget for senior residential and that's how we paid it?
No,
No.
peer review was
Okay.
for Jones Meadow and for Weber Village was paid by the applicant.
Okay, all right. Well, we can at least ask anyway.
Well,
So,
so back to, so that was a historical. For this one, we do have funds left under prior appropriations that I would be able to cover this with.
For this particular proposal right
Yeah.
here, okay.
I know, but I really do think we should, if we're gonna do it specifically for,
Oh, don't worry, we'll bring application fee proposal to you as soon as possible.
we'll get the money somehow. Speaking of which, since we're on that subject, Maren and I talked briefly about inviting the Lapoli Company in December for a brief, we don't have a lot going on in December, so for a brief discussion about moving forward, what their time schedule is, so they might have an idea what to expect from us and what we can expect from them. What does the board think about that, an informal discussion?
Mark, they did reach back to us and said that they're probably not ready yet.
Not even in
to-
December?
They're not ready to schedule it yet, and
Okay.
they'll let us know around Thanksgiving of what their time frame will look like.
Okay, all right.
I
So
do appreciate, I think your question to the board about if it's a good idea to have an informal discussion, I think that's appropriate.
I thought they were, well, you and I talked about maybe bringing them in early December for our December meeting, just to get an idea. And we can all sit down, how we think it's gonna go and stuff like that. If they're not ready for it, I don't wanna rush them, that's fine. We can wait till January, I was just trying to be accommodating, but if they're not ready, that's fine with me. But I do think having them come in informally so that we can lay down the ground rules and what we expect and how we expect it and when, things like that, probably makes more sense before they formally come before us, but.
Okay.
That's,
You went through, some of you went through the point, right?
I know, I'm the only one who went to the.
Okay,
Is the only-
so, and that's the only thing I can think that would be at all, what was the,
We did a lot of informal with the point. They came in a lot to tell us what they wanted, why they wanted it the way they wanted it. Met with the board informally before they actually did the actual presentation, yes. We did a lot. And it worked out, it seemed to work well.
and what was the time frame which all these informal discussions were?
6 months to 8 months before they actually did the actual presentation. But you gotta remember, the point was phases too. They gave us the overview and then broke it down into
Well,
the
this will
phases.
be phases
Yeah.
also.
Just an overall concept. Some drawings, I think, were the first things we saw. The idea why they wanted the lot lines touching each other, why that was important to them, the waivers that they wanted, stuff like that. They kind of walked us through the whole thing. It was, I would hope this one goes as well as that one. They were not short on giving us information. They were here all the time, so. And that worked out well, so, anyway.
Yeah, I
What
think that
about-
would be great.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that would be good to have them in when they're ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, we can extend the invitation when they think they're ready, if it's January, February, March, whatever. So,
And the same with Northern Bank, I assume we'll do that as well.
I think Northern Bank thinks they're ready.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, they've
they've
done.
been working long enough
Yeah,
on
they
this.
haven't done I don't think their iterations are gonna change. I think
Yeah.
the difference is gonna be is they're gonna have to have drainage, they're gonna have stuff to back up what they're building. Coming in with conceptuals, we've been conceptualized to death. It's now time to put the rubber where the road is. So,
Okay.
anyway,
I have to assess whether I have to recuse myself for the continuing discussions of the Northern Bank project. And it was suggested at some time, at one point, that, well, since this is, the rezoning is done, anyway, I have to, I may have to.
Yep, yep.
But I will, we'll look at the whole situation, but I mean, it's basically an issue of the form-based code, which applies to different sites than this particular one, and, et cetera, and my particular, expertise, and et cetera, so we'll see.
have you talked to the woman at the Attorney General's office?
Well, I've called the attorney of the day when this first came up,
Yeah.
and that's what I'll do again.
Yeah. Speaking for myself, I would like you to be on the board if you feel comfortable enough being on.
Well, I definitely feel comfortable. I mean, I've, it's been awkward, but I think that, and I haven't seen anything that's, that's untoward in terms of, the intentions of the town. But anyway, so.
Well, I think if you walk through the Attorney General's and feel that.
I mean, the other way it could be is that I believe I'm allowed to be in the audience, and well, we'll have to find out, because that would be the other way of weighing in.
Yep, certainly happy to help you through that process.
Okay, anybody else have anything else?
So I quickly wanted to comment, I know we were feeling good at the beginning of the meeting about the town meeting, but I think it's also important that we thank our residents for coming in light of all of the issues, like the big rainstorm we had that night and COVID. So being able to have residents' input, being able to have residents there with lots of questions, which, yes, everyone did a great job responding to. But thank you. Thank you to all the town residents who were there.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to say it, it's the usual core of people that make up town meeting, but they come out and they have their questions and they're concerned.
Yeah.
Unless we get something that hits home that's school-related or something like that, it's usually pretty much the same people, but
Yeah.
yeah, they all ask good questions and, they care about the town of Littleton, and I guess we're blessed that we have that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so I've been filling till 7:25. Anything else? Do we have?
One more.
Hurry up, you got 3 minutes.
Stormwater regulations, stormwater bylaw that was passed, amended in June. We just got word back from the Attorney General's that was approved through their office, and so now the stormwater team will be starting to work with Town Council on updating the Planning Board regulations that are needed to implement the changes to the bylaw. So eventually that'll come back to this board for a public hearing and modifications or not, and then Planning Board accepting the new updated regulations for stormwater. So that'll be coming up.
Oh, I have one more update. I totally forgot about it. The water department has finally taken possession of the Amazon site. They've been out there doing testing for a well site out there. It's public, everybody knows, public knowledge. They worked, I have to give Northland and Brian Orr kudos again, and Larry Beals too, for working hard to make sure that the easements to get across the Amazon property to the well site were worked out. The actual transfer of the deed, I guess, was finalized last Friday, I believe it was, so the water department actually owns it. The understanding is they've started to do testing out there. The preliminary stuff, according to Nick, was that it's a PFAS-free well site, which is very good news. And they're just working on they have to own it to start doing the testing and everything else to work on the potential development of the well site out there. So it is moving forward. It's taken a while, but Amazon, Northland, Brian Orr, and Larry they didn't drop the ball. They kept going with it, and they finally got it so that the town now actually owns that parcel. So
Awesome.
thank you to them. So, anyway,
So, minutes?
minutes. Are you good with minutes?
I am, so everybody else had a chance to look at them.
Well, it's good.
Yeah, I'm
With
good
this-
with the minutes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from October 7th.
I moved.
Second.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Muffled ayes. The muffled ayes have it. Okay, 6:25. Can we finally get on?
Actually, sorry,
Oh my God, we have a hot topic right here.
the budget process. I did have two questions. I'm sorry, I just found my questions. So, the new proposed position for the Assistant Town Planner would also be the Economic Development Director, is that correct?
That's the current proposal.
That's the current proposal,
Mhm.
okay, all right, got it. And then,
Economic Development Coordinator would be a better word.
well,
Correct.
okay, so it does say Director,
Mhm.
so just so you know.
That draft does
In case
that.
the language needs to be changed.
Yep, that draft does. Yep.
Okay, great. And some of the narrative, is that going to be updated for Monday's meeting?
It's going to be
Tuesday.
updated for when it's due in about 2 weeks.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Did we get a raise? Did you put in for more money for us?
That's what I forgot to do.
Zero is still zero. Anyway, how about retroactive? Boy, I'd make a fortune if it was retroactive.
You would?
Anyway, all right, can we finally get on to the big topic of the night, 7:25, that these three gentlemen came out here to discuss with us?
Absolutely.
All right. So let me just give a brief update. A couple of years ago, we had Jerry Patanti was on the board, and Mark Ransicott worked with, trying to come up with a transfer of development rights bylaw. It kind of got stalled. We presented it to the large agricultural landowners. We couldn't see eye to eye. It's never totally gone away. It's something that we're very interested in. And I guess we need more guidance to how to move forward on it. I think there's kind of two trains of thought here, because you gentlemen over here are trying to preserve open space, preserve land.
Sure. Permanently.
Permanently. See, that was part of the problem with it. The agricultural people wanted to put a restriction on it, which kind of didn't make any sense, and that's kind of why it died. But, so, I think the issue is really, where can we get the money? You know, I don't think anyone has a problem with the mechanism to preserve the land, whether we try to do TDR, or, you know, this gentleman here would love to do something with the family farm to preserve the 40 acres that are left over there that they never get built, and we can, maybe the town is not the place to find it, maybe it's through conservation, through Sudbury Valley, or other entities that might have some money to help us out. So we're open to looking at both options. And I think TDR, we probably should try to revive it and come up with something that might make a little bit of sense, but in the short term, it's always been grant money that is saved, or, you know, Littleton's done a pretty, my estimation, pretty good job preserving open space. You know, between the Morrison property, the Frost Wickham, Yaps, you know, for a small little town, we've spent a fair amount of money to preserve open space. Not that we shouldn't keep going at it and preserving more. And Don, you remember, that's why we wrote the open space bylaw, to try to get as much open space as we could without killing development, but being mindful of preserving as much as we could, and still letting the people develop their land at a more harmonious environment. So having said that, Anna, you wanted to talk about this. Do you want to start about it, or do you want to hear what they have to say, or how do you want to handle this?
Oh, we can do both. So what I would like to offer up is just that when we last talked about this, I think we had both the bylaw and the process created by Mark Grassicott, and that was discussed a little bit with the farming community, but I don't know that we really truly were able to discuss it among ourselves and with the select board, because I think that they are equal partners in this, and to be able to make it happen. So I would request that at some point in moving forward that we do interact with the select board, especially because at their September 13th meeting, they had a discussion about a land acquisition trust being created. And so I think it would be helpful to understand what their thinking is, because perhaps it can align with what TDR could potentially do. And then the second thing that I would like to comment on is in terms of any dollars. I wanted to ask whether or not, Mara, and I'll need your help on this, whether $12,000 that had been allocated in 2019 for land use coordination through MPIC is still available, and if it is, could those dollars perhaps be used for some of this work?
That's a good question for Finance Department. I can reach out and ask. It was not, that's to be spent at the Planning Board's vote, not at MPEC's vote, but it was for master plan implementation to look at land use coordination.
Yeah.
But we'd have to come up with a general idea of what it is we're looking to do with those funds, and run that by Finance Department to see if it matches the town meeting vote to set those funds aside.
Okay, great. So if this board chooses to pursue this in some way, there could be some dollars perhaps then to help if we need more consulting time or figuring out how this could actually work within our town system. So those are my comments.
How did we leave it with Mark? Did we still have a balance of money left over from, no, we had nothing left? Okay.
That was a grant that had been all used, right?
Yep, we used all of Kurt's money on it.
Well, like, as I alluded to earlier, the reason it kind of stopped in its place is because there was a fundamental difference as to how to approach TDR.
Right, and so figuring out how to then bring everyone together will take some time, and will take not only staff time, but also different boards to commit to seeing it through.
Jerry was the point man on this, and, you know, it's sort of a whole lift in it, because we got sidelined with the agricultural land community, and we it's unfortunate because the way I'm thinking about it now is that we probably could have gotten some money from the 550 King Street project if we had TDR. And I'd like to have someone, construct an alternate scenario about how it would have worked in that case, where people were looking at all the residential, all the residences proposed, and were balking, but if there was some counterbalance of open space money, it may have been different. The other thing we left it at is we did not determine sending, you have sending properties and receiving properties. We didn't really, come down to the nuts and bolts of that. And we also didn't come down to the nuts and bolts of the value of the TDR units or whatever we create. And we never came down to whether this was going to be a municipally run or privately run, or, there were a lot of, we sort of got educated on it, but didn't, it got dropped. And so that's, and I wasn't privy to the agricultural land committee discussions, but I feel like they were proposing something that was not workable within the TDR framework, and if they want some other framework, that's fine, but I think it's not good that the whole TDR was torpedoed because of that one particular interest.
And Bartlett, weren't you gonna reach out to Jerry to see if he'd be interested in being on a committee? Or was that a dream I had? Wasn't somebody gonna reach out to Jerry?
At our retreat.
Was that at our
we talked
retreat?
about-
Yeah, we talked about that.
I don't know who said what.
We had him in our sites, we should have
I
asked him.
know.
And
I know.
yeah.
Yeah, he was.
I can still reach out to Jerry and ask him if he wants to.
Or you just invite him to a meeting and say, we'll put
Yeah.
it on the agenda and come and talk to us about it.
But it has to end before 9.
Okay, yeah, we'll put him
But I
first.
mean, maybe there is, maybe we need some sort of working group, because it
Yes.
does cross several boards. It involves the farming community, and so maybe Jerry could be part of this working group.
Yeah. I think that sounds like a great idea.
I also want to say one thing. I saw someone come in who might be here for the.
Yeah, I was gonna.
The Great Road,
if you-
Mike, it's being withdrawn tonight, so there'll be no discussion of it other than to vote on whether it's okay or not.
They're gonna come back with a full presentation, starting from scratch. So it's at 6:45, we're gonna vote to let them withdraw without prejudice, so if you don't wanna listen to this, I was gonna ask if that's what you were here for. Thank you. Will you gentlemen wanna,
Sure.
go ahead.
Don McIver, 43 Foster Street, and also Wilton Conservation Trust. We've always been very much interested in the TDR. We're grateful that you're looking at that. And yeah, I did mention Marin, and she mentioned, people are preoccupied with 550 King Street and so on. You've sort of gone past that in town meeting. I saw it on the agenda. Now there are people in the press who are very concerned about seeing the agricultural community wanting only a time-limited protection on their protected land. And I did see one of the selectmen did share with me one of the emails went back and forth. So saying that, I can give you some background. I also today went to an annual retreat we have with the environmental agencies, and Kurt Gardner was there, and all the land trusts. And we looked at various things. That may be a whole nother area, but I also may be able to touch into some funding. It sounds like that's one of your problems. One of the things you need to overcome is more funding to carry it on. Okay, I can add some words to that. So my concern, and it's taken a while to put together a response, but I knew this had been stalled, and I did this morning early before going on the conference, is the concern about the agricultural community wanting only a time-limited protection on the land that's protected, while the developed land has all the additional rights and, they go ahead. It's like double dipping, you only have a little bit of protection, then they could flip the land. That runs counter to a very deep conservation approach of no net loss of conservation land. If you're gonna protect the land, it's permanently protected. You look at what CPA does when they buy land, it's permanently protected. Plus, they additionally protect it with having a conservation restriction on top of it. So, no net loss of conservation land is a very deep thought. The conservation organizations, one which I was on the board for 19 years, the Mass Association Conservation Commissions, fought very hard for the state to have a no net loss of conservation land. That's why we have Article 97 and the amendments to the state constitution saying if you're going to do something on permanently protect conservation land, you have to go through the state legislature. So that's very much of a hot button. And I agree that with the couple of vocal people from the Ag Committee wanting only short-term protected sort of torpedoed things. And I've never seen that done in any place in Massachusetts. I've been on various boards, conservation agent, different conservation commissions and so on. So it may seem like a minor thing, but it isn't. And there are people in the community that have talked to us. I know people have talked to Bartlett, and it seems like another gentleman here that's interested in protecting their conservation agricultural land and willing to have permanent protection on it. So there's no lack of where you could do this. It may not fit all farmers, but as I respond to Mara in an email before this, that's why there's estate planning. And actually conservation groups work with farmers doing estate planning, sometimes subsidizing their estate planning, where they can decide what do they want to protect permanently with CR, or what do they want no protections on, because they might want to develop it, maybe they consider that their retirement fund, whatever, a lot of their wealth is tied up in land. So my interest is having a clean TDR program where the land is protected, is permanently protected. And I was sort of surprised that Mark Rassicot came up with what he did, but yeah, he was trying to accommodate the people before him. And I think well of him. He's actually worked on land trusts in New York State. I've dealt with him before. So I was a little surprised with the model. So that's my concern. As far as funding goes, Kurt Gardner did represent the state agencies. And actually, given the situation we're in, that municipalities are sort of maxed out trying to just keep things going, there are fewer applications for funding. So they do have some surplus of money. So it might be possible getting a grant from him, with the same type of grant, to continue it. Also, one of the land trusts attending this meeting, and there's like Trust for Public Lands, all the people that lobby at the state, so everyone has their fingers on the money. Mass Audubon said they just hired 2 people to help communities do transactions of land, and they're not planning to charge for that. I don't know how well trained they are, but that might be another source. So we would very much like to work with you, because we would love to see the TDR go through. We'd love to see it used to protect forest lands, conservation lands, open space, agricultural lands. And it can be adapted as it fits. It may not fit everyone, but it's a very useful tool. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
Right, and in fairness to Mark, I was on the calls when him and Jerry were speaking, and the start was for a regular TDR. There was no time, none of that. It's the agricultural people that pushed back and said, you know what, we're giving our land away, we want a time frame on it. And that's when everything went sideways.
Yeah. So if we could reel in and have a working group, that doesn't violate the open meeting law, but actually work together and get something done, I think we could get something that would be very helpful for everyone. Mm-hmm. But I'd also be very much interested in this gentleman who I haven't seen before that's interested in protecting some land.
You've seen me before, Don.
Yeah. No, but I'm interested in your take of all this.
Sure.
Go ahead, Lyle.
Mr. Chairman, all of you, thank you. Delisa, I'm sorry, you're the only one who doesn't know, so we'll get you up to speed tonight. These people, this time, let's just begin again, as we say in meditation. If the folks who own retail agricultural don't get it, they're lost as far as I'm concerned. My family farm has a back 40 that is in certified forestry management, filed with the DCR in town, and it comes to me. Mom passed 11 months ago, and we are dividing up the home and the land, as you have seen, all of you. In this room, my family owned the oldest home in town through the 1800s. My family presently owns the second oldest home in town. The Bulkleys built it, lived there for 2 centuries. We've owned it for over a century now. On your map over here, we still own the middle of the block on Bulkley Road between Foster and Crane and Taylor. It may not be Yosemite, it may not be Yellowstone, but it's the way God made it, and that's the way I would like it to stay. My wife and I have purchased the back 40. I served on the Master Plan Implementation Committee from 2018 to 2021, and TDR was the greatest thing I'd ever heard of. So if the agricultural folks don't get it, I'm willing to leave them behind. I'm willing to set the new precedent. I get to own the land and transfer the development rights so that I get paid for it, and circling through the other objectives of the master plan, if I transfer the development rights so that we can have more robust mixed use as part of the Village Common Business District, this is a match made in heaven. I am prepared to set the precedent. I am happy to do that. I would very much like to see TDR through in our town.
And also David Sanderson, who I communicate with, we've been doing this for decades. He's very much interested in protecting the 15 acres by the Whitcomb Well area, right next to where the water department is. I mean, that's all a hayfield.
Yeah, the other side of the street you talked about.
Yeah, well, actually on both sides.
Oh, okay.
But the 15 acres that go up to, 2 parcels that go up to where the water department's going to develop, he's very much interested in protecting that. You know, once again, maybe having a conservation restriction on it by keeping it rural.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being used now by someone that has a CSA there. So, you know, there are people in the community that see this as a good tool and as benefit for everyone.
Well, I don't think you have to sell the board on
I
that.
No,
nominate
we're sold
Lyle
on it.
for the working group.
I don't think you can.
Oh, I can't.
I'd have to.
They'd have to recuse themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Anna?
So, based off these 2 examples, thank you both for bringing them to our attention. I think there are still plenty of opportunities in terms of the receive areas. I mean, we have talked sort of informally about, gee, wouldn't there be potential still at the point for housing perhaps? And we know that the common still, now that we are going to have sewer, has the opportunity for housing to be included in some of those redevelopments. And of course, whatever happens down at the train station. So I think there's still plenty of opportunity in town to actually utilize this as a tool. So I don't know what we need to do to move this forward, but I highly recommend that we connect with the other boards to create a working group to look at this.
So why don't we send something to the Agricultural Commission and see if they want to meet with us to have a formal group to explore TDR then, and we'll get somebody from the Select Board, and we'll get somebody from the Agricultural Community.
In terms of the agriculture.
But also, can we get somebody from conservation? Yeah.
Well, they've been to our they've
okay.
been to our meetings, and they
But
were.
as part of the official working group,
The,
not just
it,
as.
it is part of this, recognizing that some agricultural landowners do not see this as a tool they want. Bring forward something that they do want, and maybe it's an issue for the selectmen or for us or people who are knowledgeable in the various protections of agricultural land. Anyway.
I do like your idea, though, Jeff, of taking a look at if we had had TDR in place with 550 King Street?
Yeah.
Suddenly I drew a blank. What the result would have been. You know, how much land could we have protected?
Since we've talked about TDR, I drive around town and I look at properties that aren't immediately obvious as being, subject to this, but let's take the microwave tower. To protect that permanently, whoever owns it could, sell the development rights for TDR. There is the Morgan land that our own town owns, which people think is in conservation, but it is not. Would the town agree to, if there was a need for a transfer, would the town agree to getting money for protecting that in perpetuity? There's just a lot of things in town that could, and that's assuming we have the need for the transfer in. We may not. But there is a whole bank of land out there that could be used for these, transfer in areas. And then it would be up to us to maybe be aggressive in our receiving areas, the point, maybe some industrial land that, we've gone through this thing where we had to jump quickly and rezone industrial land for residential. Maybe we do that on some other parcels. Anyway, so there's a lot of ways this can branch out and blossom. And if Lyle is here to show how it works to the town and to a landowner, then we have a really special opportunity here.
I appreciate what Delisa said, and I would encourage you to, perhaps the role that Anna mentioned, if we don't have the person that pulls everybody together yet, let this be a case for that. So don't miss the Economic Development Committee, don't miss Littleton Affordable Housing Trust. Let's get the players together. This is a wonderful thing for this town that my family's been a part of for centuries. Let's make it the town we dreamed of when we approved the master plan.
Yeah. Yeah, because if there are all these large parcels of land that are out there and we don't use TDR to preserve them, what are we going to use? We're going to keep having the same recurring bad dream that nobody wants to have.
Well, for years, we've relied on Conservation Commission, Conservation Trust, open space to preserve it, okay?
But we also
And
haven't.
they've done a phenomenal job preserving most of the land.
And also Sunbury Valley trustees, I mean, they've
Yes.
been very active.
Yeah.
Even those two parcels that
The ones
went
up-
to town meeting, the selectmen gave me a first right of refusal on that in 8 days to acquire 20 acres. And I dragged in Sunbury Valley trustees, they had to pay a fortune of legal costs, but it got protected. And then I guess the owner, probably her day, went bankrupt and the town acquired it. But there's a lot of capability there, and even without TDR for protecting farmland.
Right.
So, bring us in with you, let's work together.
Well,
But we also have a counterparty now. We have an increased, and you need a counterparty for TDR. You have to have someone that wants to receive. And now we have all this development pressure. We haven't had this in the past, and there've been economic ups and downs, but maybe now this up is here to stay, and let's ride the wave a little
well,
bit.
one of the ways that Mark and Jerry had talked about it was the town being the bank,
Yes.
so to speak. Not so much a development area, but we take it all in, and then we dole it out. So if you,
Right.
if we come in-
As I recall, Jerry wasn't wild about that, but it seemed to me like it might be, he's
Seems
a
like it-
financial guy, so he had some
Right, it seems like it's
ideas.
the easiest. and best
I
way to
agree
do
with
it.
you, because otherwise you have to match
Right.
things temporally, you are ready now,
You
but
need a
someone
buyer
might
and a
not be
seller all
ready
the
for
time.
years,
Right.
and,
You're not always gonna get them and meshed
You had a
together.
scheme with different units that might work, but if you just acquire a cash amount of money, has a funny way of disappearing at times, politics and stuff. If you can do the transfers, it's much more.
It's cleaner, yes, but you're not gonna always have a buyer and a seller at the
Yeah,
same
it's
time.
not gonna be equally.
Anyway, so why don't we reach out to the agricultural community, see if they wanna send somebody, we'll reach out to the select board, see if we can get everybody in the same room and start talking about TDR. I think that makes most sense. And in the
And could
meantime,
we definitely be included, because We have a
Yes.
lot of expertise. We've actually gone to workshops, things.
You guys should be talking too.
Yeah, well, we should be. We should be.
You should
And I know Bartlett mentioned that someone with forestry land talked to you, but that hasn't been shared. And there's money to protect stuff like that. Especially now, more money is coming through. We don't know how much. But, in the past, it's been the amount of money has been the gating factor. But people are acknowledging more of the issue with climate change. There's still a lot of money for MVP. We, got the $900 from Brown's Land. We should be applying again for that. But I realize people are maxed out with work, that's where we are. But there is money out there, and some has gone without being requested. So there's some surplus currently. So, yeah, we should be looking at this.
Okay.
And just to comment back on the funds that I mentioned earlier from MPIC, I think that was originally raised when I think Mike was still chair and Chase was on the MPIC committee. And Chase at the time had a real interest as well in open space. So isn't he on conservation right now?
I'm sorry, who?
Chase
Gerbig.
Gerbig.
I'm sorry, I
Chase Gerber.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
And-
I think there's a lot of depth in terms of your
Yeah, and Andrew
committee.
Smart was a good person too. He's on the Concom and also the Ag Commission. And
That's
he's a
true.
little more balanced.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are some people, I understand farmers have concerns and everything's tied up in the farmland. But, if they're gonna get money for something, the public has some interest in it too. But, you can do something workable. And it may not fit all farmers, but there are some farmers that do quite well, like Steve Verrill and his daughter in Concord, they have a APR restriction on their land, and, he's been on their natural resource board. I mean, he's fine as a land regulator, but some farmers, don't want to touch any regulation,
Right.
And so be it, but they should
And-
taint everything else.
And Maren, we have basically done we have a draft bylaw, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of background work that
Yeah,
has gone on.
we've done
Yeah.
a lot of work. We just need to bring it over the line.
Like you said, it was clear that we didn't have the opportunity to have the rest of the discussions
Right.
before the last year's town meeting, so.
Yeah,
What I'm hearing is that you'd like to set up a format so that this can move forward.
Yeah, why don't we reach out and see who we can get, and then we'll start
And if you want another review of this stuff, like Mass Audubon would do, just give their opinion, what they've seen. A lot of examples out there. There's some
Yeah, I
bad
think
examples.
there certainly is a lot of resources that the committee the working group should be able to reach out to.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, so why don't we
Thank you.
reach out, see who we can get, and schedule them December, January, whenever we can get it.
So
some
let's
people
come up with
back
the process that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And go from there.
With the intention of hopefully bringing something to Springtown meeting?
there. I don't know if we're gonna
With
be,
no staffing and no money right now, it's difficult to make that promise.
I don't know how we're gonna even, we can't even get everybody to agree. I don't know, that might be a little optimistic, but we can try. I mean, we can obviously move
Try to
forward.
bring resources to the table.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say this, if we were able to bring a zoning bylaw development for 550 King Street in 8 frickin' weeks, we can do this if we want to. This is political will. This isn't a function of being able to.
The problem, Ann, I mean, quite honestly, is you have two opposing sides that can't come to an agreement on how
But
to bring it.
I don't see it as an opposition. I see is that it's, they want something else.
Yeah, does it fit?
They want something else. What that is, I don't know. I wasn't in those meetings, but this is not it. And it's for certain things, and then there are APRs, there are other things. So I don't think it's an oppositional thing. I think it's just,
It just may be a tool they can't use.
Yeah,
Right.
So
So
maybe we identify something else.
and there's no harm in them putting their hand up to want a tool, but I'm not even sure it'd be legal to do what they want.
Yeah, but if they don't want the tool, then no one's gonna buy into it.
What do you mean?
But
No,
we
they
have
don't-
other
but
people.
they don't- Yeah, and we don't need their
You're
buy-in.
the only one.
But
They're
that
all
may
on
be,
it.
and maybe that's it.
Maybe
So-
you got one person. That's it. So,
More
Well,
people come to the
Mr.
table.
Sanderson, I
There's a
mean,
forestry
yeah.
person, there's Lyle.
I mean,
David
it's just
Sanderson,
one
maybe other
tool.
people too.
Right.
Just one tool in our toolkit.
And I think
Right?
when we went through the planning, looking at it, this isn't I mean, it's not a widely used tool. I mean, it has not had a huge impact, but I think in our particular time and place, we really need to put it.
I don't think we
need to
can
try
be
to put it in
dissuaded
place.
because there are going to be some
Right.
people who don't like it. I mean, that's the case in anything we
Right.
do.
I mean, Mr. Chair, we just had opposition to 550 King Street, and it didn't stop us from continuing to move forward, so it's one of those situations. I have the utmost respect for our farmers in town, but there are many other voices as well in addition.
Yeah, but the large landowners are the ones that spoke. Whether they're farming it or whether they're just preserving it, they were the ones that spoke and said they didn't want it.
But
That's
again-
fine, then don't
but
use
yeah,
it.
But
Yeah,
then they
but then
don't have
then who's gonna do it?
Lyle,
That's one person.
that's fine.
Mention 3, and once you do it, more people will get on board.
It doesn't mean that there can't be other tools that these other farmers can use or find or, you know.
Yeah, you have some farmers that are quiet, who do not want to get into the politics, and you have some farmers that want to be very vocal, so.
But we got the vocal ones.
And
Yeah, I
they-
know.
But okay, but
And
then they can go
Okay,
ahead.
that's fine.
and- But yeah, but
We
then
still
they-
have to
But if they,
get people involved, and we have to
I totally
get a
agree.
consensus.
But Mark, if they know, if these vocal farmers
I'm
are.
not opposed to
No,
it.
no,
I'm
I
just-
know,
I'm just
no, I
being
know.
realistic
No,
about it.
I know, no. What I was gonna say is that if there is some tool out there that would meet their needs, great, you know, then they can have that tool, and people can have the TDR tool.
Right, and maybe
There
through
can
this
be
whole
multiple
process,
ones.
there will be a discovery of a tool that works for farmers that perhaps can be tweaked a little bit or
Yeah.
is completely different. But
Okay,
until we go down the path, we won't know.
That's fine. I'm fine with going down the path, but to tell us that we have to get it done by Springtown meeting may be a little optimistic. That's all I'm trying to say. Just time. It may work, it may not work. We don't,
Yeah, it's a target, and you
Right.
might make it, you might not, but
Right.
it's still
That's all
progress.
I'm trying to say. I'm not torpedoing it. I'm just trying to be realistic about
I
it.
think if we hadn't done all this work already, it would be unrealistic. But we've done all this work.
Right.
We've done a lot of it, but
I
we're
think
not.
it's 80% there.
I
So-
agree.
So
Okay.
get the working group together.
Fine. That's what, I just said that.
I know.
Let's reach out, see who on the select board wants to help out with it, who from the agricultural, who from the planning board wants to work on it.
Do you want anybody from MPIC?
We'll take anybody we can
Well,
get.
what occurred to me is you mentioned on that there's a lot of money out there, but,
That's what I heard this morning from the environmental department.
so a woman who is going to be joining MPIC actually has unbelievable experience in grant writing. And I don't know, it may be something she can help with in going after the money if we're so, you know, we don't have much staff, people don't have bandwidth, so just throwing it out there. I mean, I haven't even mentioned it to Jennifer, but she may be a great resource.
Right, and I don't know what her background is, but it could be a resource. I could also respond back to Kurt and say, well, okay, you mentioned there's extra money. Could we get another slug of money from the environmental department resources, which is what got you so far with Mark Rossicott? Because apparently he has some sort of discretion. And he certainly doesn't want to turn it back to the administration of finance, you know, because he's likely to lose it next year.
Right.
Does that
Okay.
sound of
Yes,
interest to?
I mean, don't,
I can
well,
probe-
Maren, you're in the middle of all this. What do you think?
I know the EEA hasn't issued any new grant application rounds, and that's technically the only process that the town has to go after that type of funds. But it certainly wouldn't hurt for others to reach out.
This woman, she was a senior development officer for the Brookings Institute. She's been a grant writing and donor communications manager for Root Capital. I mean, I'm not saying she's got land, you know, specific conservation, but she certainly has some really stellar experience. She currently works at MIT for their foundation relations, so.
Well, I think, based on town meeting, we need to get George Sanders involved because he's talking about reaching in and grabbing money. So,
All right.
And he's got time.
Go ahead, Lyle. One last thing before we, I
I
promise.
always want to be a source of encouraging, not discouraging, so to leave this on an encouraging note, I would say you're not encountering opposition as much as you're encountering retail farmers want to opt out, that's fine. I will happily work with this group to create a precedent for what happens when you opt in. When I created my architecture practice, I named it Building Momentum. If that's what we got to do, I'm here to help building momentum.
Thank you.
Great.
We tried to tell them that it wasn't for everybody, and you could opt in, opt out. It was like we would, well, never mind, I don't even want to. There was a lot of opposition, that's all I'm trying to say, and poor
Okay.
Jerry and Mark bore the brunt of it. Okay.
80% of the way there, let's get through it.
All right, I promised Lisa would be out by 7.
No, that's all right.
So we have Northern
My
Bank.
son still, yeah, my
Oh, we
son
have to,
isn't here
we may
yet.
as
Oh,
well.
yeah,
take
at
care of
6:40, we have to, why didn't you stop me at 6:45?
You were on a roll, Mark.
All right, we have to vote to,
Thank you very much.
thank you guys for
you.
coming,
Yeah,
thank
we'll be
you.
working together. I think this is a
Yeah.
good opportunity.
Thank you, Don. We have to, Northern Bank has requested to withdraw without prejudice their application for 289 Great Road. I'll entertain a motion to allow them to withdraw
I-
without prejudice.
I
You
need
don't
to
have to,
recuse
that's all
myself.
right. Anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, muffling by saying aye.
So I have a question before we vote
Okay.
on that. So, we received an email from a resident today, which we've all seen. And so from the standpoint of whether or not any kind of a memorandum of understanding can be created for the kind of issues that she brought up, is that something that we can ask them to do, to address those issues formally?
When they're in the
or
formal
Before
process.
resubmitting their application, or with their application?
With the we can ask them once they're in a formal application process. So right now, they're not in a formal, they're withdrawing it and want to start, which means they have to do drainage, they have to do the actual site plan, special, everything. No more informal, no more, renderings of what it could possibly look like. It's now getting down to brass tacks. That's when we take that we ask for clarity on those issues. That's why I asked Mark to include it as part of the submissions that are
Okay,
part of 289.
terrific.
Right,
Thank
Okay.
you.
Pat did share that already with Mark Vaughn.
Terrific, thank
So
you.
the
Okay,
team has
just want to
the
make sure.
information.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
Now is not the time. When they come before us formally, that's the time.
But in the meantime, they've been,
Made aware of it.
yes, and so they can start preparing their
And in
plans accordingly.
fairness, he was there most of the time when Sandra was speaking about those issues, and I don't think he had very much of a problem with it. I can't speak for him, but he was there and he wasn't upset with what the residents were asking for. So,
thank you.
anyway, okay, so now can we vote it?
Yes,
All those in favor of with letting Northern Bank withdraw without prejudice for 289 Great Road signify by saying aye,
Aye.
aye.
and one abstain. Okay, that's it. We're done for the night.
All I had,
That's
thank
it. I brought us in on time and on budget. Look at that. Great. All right, our next meeting is when?
you. Next meeting, beginning of December.
December. Can you imagine that? We're already talking about December.
After Thanksgiving, jeez.
If I'm not mistaken, it's December 2nd,
December 2nd.
is that right?
We're not gonna do 6 o'clock anymore, right? Are we doing 7
I
or?
like 6. What's the matter with 6? What's 7?
Jeff can't make it.
Oh,
at
he
6.
can, he won't be here for 7 anyway.
Well, that's
Is
true.
6 really bad for you? I just like being able to come right from work.
It's my peak work hour.
Well, go to bed earlier, get up earlier.
Is 6 still good for everyone else? I'm fine with 6. I don't care. Are you good with 6,
Sure.
Violet? 6:30?
Yeah, 6:30, something like, whatever, I mean.
Depends on how busy we are. If we're not that busy, we could have, tonight we could have done 6:30. You know, we had a stretch for 45 minutes.
See, then Lauren gets, she's here all day, she gets to leave at a decent hour.
Okay, you talked to me, all right. So it's the 2nd at tentatively 6 o'clock,
Yep.
if we have anybody to talk to.
And if anybody has conflict or whatever, different time suggestion, just please let me know.
Okay.
Happy to revise.
So what's on the agenda for the 2nd? Possibly Lapoli, but
No, I don't,
Okay.
doesn't sound like they're
Maybe
even
not.
gonna be interested. All right, shut us off from the world.
Oh,
Well, did we have to
have to
adjourn the
vote.
Oh,
meeting?
yes, we have to
We already
adjourn.
voted it.
No, we didn't.
No, we
No,
didn't.
we didn't.
We voted on withdrawing, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
second it.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Get that vote.